going to look at the basics of the digestive system, and we've got Bob here to help us do so. But before we get started, what is the point of the digestive system? Well, it is to gain nutrition, and our body does this through several different processes: motility, secretion, digestion, absorption and excretion. So now let's look at the anatomy with Bob. Okay, so let's have a look at Bob. So Bob's a little bit peckish and he's going to put food into his mouth. So that's where the start of the digestive system starts. So food enters the mouth and goes into the mouth cavity. He's then going to use his teeth to start chewing. So Bob's got some food. It enters via the mouth, which is the first part of their digestive tract. It enters the mouth cavity and then goes to the teeth, where mastication occurs. That is a posh word for chewing. The food is also helped digested by your salivary glands, which release saliva, which are enzymes which break down food. The tongue also helps with the chewing process and helps propel food to the back of your throat for swallowing. So we have two tubes, one your esophagus and one your trachea. So how do we stop food from going in the incorrect tube? So we're going to put food to the back of our throat, like I said, and then we've got two tubes there. So we've got the trachea, which is our breathing tube, and we've got our esophagus. So how do we stop food from going down that incorrect tube? Okay, so at the back of our throat, we have our pharynx, and within the pharynx, we have our epiglottis, which is basically a little skin flap that will flap over your trachea to block that off so food will go down the esophagus and not the trachea, because we don't want food in our breathing pipe. We also have in our pharynx your vocal cords, which will come together and squeeze to help aid that swallow so your food goes from your mouth down into your esophagus. So now Bob has his food in his esophagus. That's going to further travel down to where the main action needs to take place, which is our stomach, located here on Bob. Okay. So within our stomach we have stomach acid, which will help break down food even more, and it also acts as a churn to start breaking down and digesting it into smaller chunks. So as we move on from our stomach, our food goes into our small intestine, which in fact isn't really small because it's 22 foot long. As it moves through each section of the small intestine, our body is going to absorb all the nutrients useful that were in that food. So as we've gone from the small, we're now going to go into the large intestine, which we have the ascending colon, transverse colon and descending colon. And as it moves through your large intestine or your colons, it's going to absorb any more last water or nutrients from your stool to make your stool firmer. So in dehydration, for example, you're going to be absorbing as much fluid as you can from that stool. Now we've gone from our large intestine, the long journey that it's taken where it's absorbed all the nutrients and water that we need for our body, we have now created waste, which we need to feed, which is feces. So we need to pass that on from our large intestine to our rectum. In this rectum, this will prepare for defecation, to pass stool. This sensation will then create the movement of the stool from the rectum into the anus, where you'll hopefully pass your stool into a toilet. So let's have a little quick overview of the organs and accessory organs that are actually involved in our digestive system. So let's get rid of the lungs. And the heart. So first off, we've got the liver. So the liver, its primary role is to filter, but it has many, many jobs. If you look on the back of the liver, you have the gallbladder, which mainly produces bile, which aids in digestion, and particularly the digestion of fats. So just behind the liver we have the stomach, which we've talked about, but behind the stomach itself we have the pancreas. Now the pancreas produces digestive juices to help in the digestive process, but it also is responsible for producing two very important hormones which allow us to utilise energy and we need it. So thanks, Bob, for helping us out with that. So now we want you to take a deeper dive into your asynchronous work below for further consolidation. Your next section, your lecture on the physiology, will be going through the processes we mentioned at the start of the video in more depth for you and the functions. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.